All right, lots to report. And with us to siphon through all the nonsense and bullshit is one of our favorites. You know him as the Haunt Keeper on Instagram, but we know him as Evan the Haunt Keeper. Welcome to the show, buddy. How are you? Good to see you again.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So you've witnessed a lot this week. Well, first things first, the news today, not today, but this week continues to get worse with the loss of two of our allies. Blondie drummer Clem Burke, who had done many charitable gigs with us, and director Ted Kotcheff of Rambo First Blood, Weekend at Bernie's, and North Dallas 40, and one of my favorites, Uncommon Valor. He also passed away. Another charitable contributor here. So the casualty list is stacking up and getting crazy. But with all the craziness to sort through it all, including some very, very special events, Evan's got an update. Where have you been, buddy? What's the latest?
What was it like a couple weeks ago? Went to the John Carpenter Walk of Fame
Yeah, I
star
asked if you were
ceremony.
going, and it was kind of like this. I don't know. I might go, but break the experience down for us.
That's how it was because I didn't realize that my daughter was on spring break from school that week. Because the
Right.
logistics of like calling out for her and all that to go do something like that, which I'm fine
Mhm.
with, but yeah. Anyway, it just was a happy accident that it was like, oh, hey, she's off this week. Oh, we're totally doing that. And then it's happening. I forget where they said it. It was either on Instagram or something, but it said in right in front of the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. And I'm like, well, you could like book a room there and then be there in the morning, because I mean, I live in Oceanside, so it's a 2 hour drive generally for me to get up there.
Yeah.
But if I'm already there, you know,
So, kind of a landmark to have it. I mean, rumored to be haunted. In fact,
right?
they used the ghosts of Montgomery Cliff. They say they hear him practicing the trumpet upstairs for that movie. What was it? Was it From Here to Eternity? One of those films. I actually think
Something
they have
like
a
that.
button at the front desk, and to add more ambiance, they push it, and it's this faint recording of a trump to make everyone
Yeah.
think it's haunted. But we did a concert with some of the members of like the Sex Pistols, Gene Loves Jezebel, and the Colton there, and the
Yeah, you were telling me about that. That's
the
cool.
Roosevelt day of tried to panic, and we're like, ain't going down like that, buddy.
Yeah.
You
Get your
can't
acoustic
commit.
guitars. We're raiding the
Yeah.
hotel. We're getting in there.
Well, they did. It was supposed to be an acoustic show, and they showed up with acoustic guitars. But at that point, the hotel management back then, it's changed since. They thought it was like they treated it like it was a heist. They were like, they've got guitars. They've got guitar. They've got guitar. Like it was going down, and it was like there was already a line of people out front, and they were like, this might get crazy, but we
Yeah.
managed to work it all out. And again, if you defuse the situation, take a deep breath. I mean, roll the map over the hood of the tank and get together and strategize is my thinking.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, figure out what to do, where, and how. And generally, if you intend to work it out, it will work out. But the Roosevelt is a bit of a landmark. You are there, so you check in, and just I'm surprised it wasn't booked out with all
It was, I don't know. It
the
felt like I was
fans.
in on a secret or something. Yeah, I don't know. It was cheap-ish to stay there for just
Yeah.
one night, to pull off the mission or whatever. But, I took my daughter out there, parked in valet. It's like $70 to park valet. I was like, oof. But I mean, for
That's
the
a little
greater good,
much.
it
That's a little
is.
much
But
for a hotel
but that ended
guest.
up being something good because at the end of the whole I guess I'll like work up to that or whatever. But yeah, we ate dinner there, we swam in the pool, all that, spent stayed overnight, went out the night before to go look at the star location to kind of figure out where everything was going to get set up, you
Logistics
know.
check. Smart.
Yeah,
Smart.
like stake it out and all that.
Hey
So we
man,
woke
run a
up in the morning.
rehearsal. Run a
What's up?
rehearsal. Run a
Yeah,
rehearsal of your
yeah,
coverage.
kind of. Yeah, it's like it was like covered up with plastic and all that ready for the
Yeah.
next morning.
Yeah,
So
right.
so yeah, we woke up in the morning.
At what time?
I don't remember, but I think we got it. We ate enough time to eat breakfast and everything because I was like, I'm not going to kill myself to pull this off. Like, if we just get out at the right time and it all works out, no problem. And I think it was around because I think the ceremony was like 11:30. I think we got out there at like 9. Plus, it's like I'm with an 8-year-old kid, and it's like you got to time out bathroom breaks, things like that. Like
Yeah.
I can't be out there waiting for an extended amount of time. I can do it, but I know, she can't handle
Hey,
that.
you got to take these things into account, and you're smart to do that. So there you go.
Yeah.
So you've got a
Well,
pretty good layout.
yeah. And plus I was like, if you do need to go and we have to leave our spot, it's fine. I'm not gonna make you like sweat it out here. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were in like a pretty big line, and then they started funneling us into the little fan area and the barricades, and we ended up like all the way up front where we got I got some great pictures and video and
You
everything. And
did. You did. I
yeah,
was impressed with that. I
I
also
got
saw
a
my buddy Ali Ong was in the crowd.
yeah, he was there. Dennis Dunn
Yeah.
was there. Tommy Lee Wallace, Nick Castle, PJ Souls.
The crowd.
Um,
The crowd he grew up with, basically.
yeah, it was cool. Yeah, and then to see Kurt Russell in person was super cool, and Keith David, and you know,
So, well, Keith David did a Christmas Carol with us a couple years back, so I have a lot of
right.
love for him. And also, Kurt Russell's family grew up with my family, so his sister Jody Philbrick, who's married to a great UPM. His brother-in-law was Larry Franco for a bit too,
Oh,
and
okay.
Larry's son went to my high school with us. But Kurt Russell's sister's family grew up like Forrest Philbrick and all these great legends. Jack Philbrick's brilliant, brilliant UPM. Actually gave me my first break. Kurt Russell's brother-in-law gave me my first break in the entertainment business when I was a kid. He said, "Why don't you come down and watch me work on picket fences?"
No, it's
And he
cool.
did. And then there was a scene, like a crowd scene. He's like, "Why don't you stand right there?" And he put me in the scene, which was a kind of a like a it was a challenging experience because atmosphere actors really act, and I'm just kind of like, "What are we doing here? What's the plan?" I had no
You're
experience.
like,
And then at the end of the day, I'm going home, and I'm going home before anyone else. I'm like, "Well, listen, man, I'll cut out." And he's like, "Well, we have to stop by the trailer. We have to get you paid." And I got paid for that. I'm like, "No, no, no, don't do that. If anything, I was a liability to your scene, you know." But fantastic people. I'm sure they were there too. But it's great to see like the guys that cut their teeth. Carpenter is now starting to get, for the last decade or so, he's starting to get the respect he's always deserved. But it
correct.
wasn't
Yeah.
always like that. You know, it wasn't always like that, unfortunately, even though he made my favorite movie of all time, probably, or certainly one of them, The Thing. But it's
Yeah.
great to see
And
everyone coming out and being like, "Yeah, man, we got him."
Childs and
Anyway,
McCready reunion, on the Kurt Russell and Keith David together is super cool.
well, we were talking about that, and we found it hard to believe that they hadn't come across each other in 40 years. And
Yeah.
and maybe it's better that for the Hollywood lore that they haven't, but I would almost guarantee that they have. But and
I
maybe
kind of
can't
feel the
remember.
same. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those guys have a combined resume of like 750 credits or more. So
Yeah.
it's like never at one Hollywood Christmas party. And I think the after party for this was at Musso and Frank's. From what I could tell by some of the photos my friends were taking, Peter Jason would have been there in the front row had he not passed away
That's
in
right.
February. And we did a tribute show to him. Much love for him. By the Carpenters. He spent the Carpenters. It kind of sounds like the band, but
Why do birds?
yeah, it's kind of appropriate. It's kind of
Yeah.
inappropriate. But he spent Christmas with them and every year, and I think he would have loved to have been part of this. Just the human nature side of his personality would have loved to have seen John get this. But John's got it, and you're there. So you're right up front. I mean, your shots look like you were in the press pit, bro.
Yeah, I ended up whoever runs Carpenter's account ended up sharing like I had like a photo roll. I think it's like 10 pictures, but
Yeah,
I had bought like a brand new camera and everything to get everything, but it was my first time out with it. I was like overly ambitious, and I'm like, I can do
good,
this.
good.
And then the guy next to me at the camera, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I'm like, how do you focus this? He's like, oh, you got to turn the autofocus off. And I'm like, I'm not fast enough with the camera. I'm just going to switch over to my phone because people were coming out and I was recognizing them and I wanted to
Mm,
get them before they sat down in their seat. And so, yeah, Slash was like the first one out. And then
good.
everybody from there. But I started like Dennis Dunn from Big Trouble in Little China. He was Wang Chi, and
Oh, you don't have to
also
tell us who Dennis Dunn was,
Prince of
brother. Come on.
Darkness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. It was super cool.
Did Jeff Amata like shout, "Hey, Wang Chi"?
I
All right.
think I think they were there together.
They probably were.
They
They
were
probably
walking
were.
together because I recognized Jeff Amata, but I didn't like know him by name. I had to like kind of look it up. And
Um,
but yeah, they
James Lew was probably there too, and he was the stunt coordinator on that. And he,
yeah,
they
it was
the,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I
kind
was going
of
to say those guys, Ali Ong, James, and Jeff are like a package deal. It feels like in on like 90% of these movies. So they were probably all there, and they're hilarious. They're
yeah.
if you can have dinner with them, and some of us have survived it. It's it's a hilarious experience.
That's cool.
Hilarious. But anyway, so you saw Wang Chi
I did, yeah.
and
And Jeff
talked to him.
Amata, I did. Well, it was like okay, so Carpenter was hilarious during the ceremony because it got to a certain point and people
Yeah.
who were like officially the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, different representatives and all that were like, there was one last guy that had to come up and talk, and it was after Greg Nicotero had spoken and Keith and Kurt and John Carpenter's like, come on. He's like, come on, let's get it going here. Come on, let's wrap this up. Basically wanted to just get it done and move on with his day.
Carpenter's got lunch and a pack of Marlboros waiting for him. He
It's
doesn't need
true.
he's never been one really to put up with like time vacuuming
Yeah, he's a
circumstances.
no bullshit guy. It's like,
Yeah.
let's get it going.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
when I saw him at the Palladium, do a concert. It was on Halloween, it's 2018. I overheard some security person or something. He's like, he wants to wrap this up by like, it was like 9 or something like that. He
Yeah.
wants to get home and, play video games and shit. He wants to wrap the show up as quick as possible.
And that's not a pun. He does love playing video games and he
Oh,
will,
yeah.
in fact, a friend of mine says he's been known to cancel things to play video games, to stay home and just play video games. That's my friend's perspective based on apparently his personal experiences with him. I don't know about that. I mean, Carpenter's always been very gracious with our charity work, and he'll take all day to sign things for, Sean's charity or her children's hospital NMOSD initiative. So he's been a hero when he needs to be. He can stack it up like any
Right.
adult the way it's got to go. He can build it the way it's got to go down. But I'm just so you're there. You talk to Dennis, and of course, didn't you have like a fanboy moment or something? Like, didn't you throw like a
Yeah.
kung fu
Yeah.
pose at him, or what did you do?
So they wrapped the whole thing up
Yeah,
and they weren't letting people cross.
no, no,
Into the hotel. But I was like, well, I got to get my car. And it was legit. I went up to one of the cops and I was like, hey, I stayed here overnight.
yeah,
My truck is in valet. I got to pick it up. Can I go in and get it? He said, sure. And he let me in.
yeah.
And I'm like walking with like we walked by Slash, who's over here, like I
Uh,
just was cool. I didn't bother anybody, but they put us like kind of with everybody, and we should not have been with everybody. But I was walking behind Jeff Amata and Dennis Dunn coming down the stairs, and just really quickly, I was like, just want to tell you guys, I love Big Trouble in Little China. I had to say it. So, and
well,
they're
you
like,
know
oh,
that
thank you, and that was it.
that cast, for the most part, without naming names, has remained super tight. And the names I won't name are the people that are kind of on the outs with the rest of the cast. Uh, but there was also a sequel on the books. They were going to try.
Right?
There was
Yeah.
even a script for it, I think, at one point. Carpenter got a lot of flack from like the Chinese American Society of Greatness or something, one of those community groups, to the point where he asked the cast members, like, what am I doing wrong? And those guys were like, nothing. This is awesome. Don't bow down to that. Don't change your things. And this is Al Leong telling me this. Like, Al Leong was
Right.
like, you're doing it. And Gerald Nakamura was probably there in the mix too. He's the guy with the handguns, the gold handguns. Um, and
Oh, when he
he
comes in, draws them real quick, and
Yeah, he's
yeah,
also a
yeah.
weapons maker for fun and famously tells the story that he went into the audition for Rambo First Blood Part 2, a
Oh, that's
sequel to a Ted Kotcheff movie, who we just lost Ted.
right.
And he said the design of like the little knives that come out of the back holster, and he's like, Stallone saw that, and Gerald's like, I didn't get a job on the movie, but I saw my weapon show up. I mean, what the fuck is up with that? But anyway, those guys were telling me that they were encouraging John, but like John was getting a lot of unnecessary flack for what he was doing. Sometimes people don't feel important unless they're giving you a rash of shit, and it was
Yeah.
happening on that movie. So obviously there would be no entertaining for a sequel, not under Carpenter's direction anyway, given he just doesn't like to deal with that. Why? He's got enough creative ideas, he can bounce to the next one. But I'm glad you told him that you enjoyed it, because Barry Diller, who was running Paramount and then later oversaw this production, he did not like the movie. He was the head of the studio at the time, and
Right.
he was like, "This guy doesn't do anything good. This is a terrible hero. I don't understand what this movie's about." But there is something that for me is kind of it's not, it's like an X factor with Carpenter's movies. Like I'm, Ebert. When I talked to Roger Ebert once, we both said something similar in the sense that there's movies we like that are fun to watch, yet we can't explain why we like them. We shouldn't like them. It feels embarrassing to like some of these movies, but for some reason we like them. And for me, Big Trouble in Little China is one of those films, not that I'm embarrassed to like it, that I've always liked, and I can't really tell anyone why. It's like it's just
Yeah.
fun. It's just an abstract concept of fun on a screen, I guess, which for me is the only point, right? But anyway,
Yeah, it kind of gets weirder and weirder as the movie goes along.
yeah,
I think like Kurt Russell is supposed to be like kind of like a John Wayne kind of
yeah,
thing, and kind of bumbling. Like you think he's the hero, but it's like Wang Chi is actually the hero. He's kind of
yeah,
more of the badass in the story. Um, and then
yeah.
I don't know.
And he's an interesting pick too because he doesn't cut the toughest silhouette of the cast, but he certainly delivers. He's great in the movie. And uh Peter Kwan always told me he's like, he loved the fact that he had like the Shaw brothers hair and stuff and got to say the one line that he always loves to say at dinner, which is "You are nowhere." And there's like they all had like these fun moments to execute, which was cool. It's just a look.
Yeah. Well,
But so back to the story at hand. And I'm sorry, there's just too much excitement here
it's
for us
all
to
good.
stay on
That's
track.
always with John Carpenter. It just goes in all directions.
So you tell him you like Big Trouble in Little China, and the response is,
Oh, it was just really like I was honestly like I didn't even say it correctly because I was so
yeah,
nervous. It just I was like, oh shit! Like we ended up we ended up in the middle of all these people, and like I was waiting for valet, and PJ Souls is right
yeah.
here, and then Al Leong's right in front of me. I didn't bother Al Leong, but after that thing with those guys, I was like, ugh, even more nervous. Just sit and wait for your car and get it and leave. That was it. So
I absolutely love Hal. He's come to our Christmas events. He is one of my favorite human beings, and probably would have loved to hear the compliment as well. Um, Good choice. I mean, obviously he's the king of Christmas. He's in two awesome Christmas movies, and I don't want any fucking argument here. Lethal Weapon and
right,
Die Hard.
right, exactly.
Lethal Weapon and Die Hard are Christmas movies.
Endo.
Hal's in both of them. Yeah, so he's a Christmas star around our house. But um, yeah, so that's cool. I mean, Amada and all those guys, they're the real deal. Those guys are journeymen who have paid their dues and in awesome ways. So you see them and what was the overall vibe, man? What was Carpenter's?
It was cool, but okay, so people I think always bring stuff to get signed or get pictures or whatever, but everybody
Yeah,
just they were when the ceremony was over, everybody got out. They just were like, we're out. Nobody was
yeah.
signing anything. I did bring a Studio House Designs like skateboard deck with the thing poster on it, just in case. But we ended up with everybody in waiting for a valet or whatever, and then we went down under, there's kind of the restrooms kind of down underneath. Um but when my daughter and I walked to go to the restroom, Carpenter and Sandy King walked like right past us, and I have this
Yeah.
deck with me. It looks like I'm going to rush him and try to get it. I just like I saw him, and then I just looked down, and we like just passed each other in the hallway because I wasn't going to be like, hey, can you sign my deck? Um, he did address
Actually,
the crowd and say, I'm not signing anything, guys. And I was like, okay, all good. So
oh, did he say that?
he did say that. So anytime, and then there was some crazy situation. I think there was a video on TMZ or something, but people were like getting all up on Kurt Russell's car,
Oh,
like fighting with his security and stuff, trying to get autographs. And I was like, shit like that's just crazy, just if they don't want to sign something, just leave them alone. They don't owe you anything.
exactly, exactly. And if you want to give me that skateboard deck, I'll see if I can get signed for you later. No promises, but
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
can certainly. I just talked to Sandy this week, oddly enough. I mean, the thing about it is that's people don't know. People are so tone deaf. They don't know and they don't care when they cross the line on other people. Like that's what makes these things sometimes feel awkward and uncomfortable and less enjoyable is the idea that you can't just go there and celebrate a thing. You have to go there and try and get something for yourself. I mean, at least you read the room and you're like, this isn't,
I
if
always
this
do.
happens,
I'm good
great.
with
But
that.
yeah, you are good with that. I have to admit, I've been in a room with you when we've done some celebrity things, and you are very good. The only person that was an asshole when you were trying to work that room was me to you. So,
Oh, come on, man. It's fine. It's all good.
so,
No
so,
problem.
but in all honesty, I mean, you did read the room, and most people don't. And it's like I understand there's like a sense of desperation, but at the end of the day, it's just a signature. Enjoy what you witnessed, And
Oh
I
yeah,
think
I
it's
mean, I have really no interest and never had any interest. I mean, I think I kind of was like, oh, the Tim Burton one might be cool, but I'm like, that's going to be a fucking like total shit show with all the people there.
yeah,
It would
yeah.
have been insane. Um,
I mean,
Carpenter's was like well attended. Like, it was cool. I picked out there was a guy dressed up head to toe, like full on McCready outfit. He's like, I didn't bring a fake gun, but he's got like fake dynamite strapped to him and shit. I'm like, that might be a problem though with the fake dynamite you got on you, man.
it really just depends who you come across at the checkpoint, right?
Right, exactly. Like,
It's
it's
sometimes
fine.
there's a
Going
little
in there.
yeah, there's a little independent decision making in the process, but it's good to see people are enthusiastic. I mean, I think Carpenter, I was surprised actually to see an old Siskel and Ebert. I've been watching those for some reason because
Oh, that's cool.
there were two critics I never thought I agreed with as a kid, but now that I'm older, there he goes.
Hang on.
Um,
Okay, we're back.
now that I'm older, it's kind of interesting to hear what they say about the film, and I tend to agree with them a little bit more, or at least agree that they make smart points. And they were actually a little bit more sympathetic than I remember as a kid. I thought they were complete butchers, and I thought Carpenter was a victim of that. One liked the thing, one didn't. I don't know how one doesn't like that movie, but they both, oddly enough, liked Christine, which is a movie I do like and think is interesting. But I was
Yeah, I
surprised
love it
they
too.
liked it.
The
You know,
music's really good on that one too. Like his score is excellent, and then the rock and roll choices are really good too.
Right. But I remember screening that for a Halloween party when I was in junior high, and nobody would sit for it. Like I was like, this is good. And I do understand that it takes a while before the demonic car gets on the rails and starts doing its thing. But I remember there was like a moment in time there where, you'd mention like at like, your parents' functions or dinner parties or wherever you are as a kid and be like, have you seen the thing? And we as kids loved it, but not everyone did. Not everyone liked Carpenter's work, The Fog. In fact, some people were outright, I think, wrongly dismissive of him. And so it's nice to see that people are kind of coming around and appreciating for what it is because, man, I think I've always thought the guy had an innovative touch and makes things that would, like a normal filmmaker. I mean, let's just take Ted Kotcheff, who we're talking about, one of my favorite human beings, Weekend at Bernie's, Rambo First Blood. Give him the Christine script. It's a totally different movie. Not a bad movie, but it's a totally different film,
Yeah,
as one would expect. But the thing that Carpenter adds to it, the changes from the Stephen King book, I mean, I just don't think I guess in conclusion, not to bore everyone listening to this, but it's great to see Carpenter get the respect because those of us who were young, particularly around the Prince of Darkness era, he was getting like hammered in the press. Before that, he was getting hammered, but I mean, like, just at street level, people are like, "This guy is who?" But I thought he was fucking great, and I think he
yeah,
also is
for
tired
sure.
of it.
I
Like,
think he's been vindicated, definitely.
oh my gosh,
In
yeah,
the court of
and
public opinion,
yeah,
100%. He is deservedly a fucking legend now. You know,
yeah, yeah,
so didn't I mean he did he did Starman, and
right.
that got Jeff Bridges an Oscar nomination.
It did, and it's a very good movie. Although he did not write it, and he didn't do the music, which is why I think that one kind of slips through the cracks. But I remember seeing that in the theater as a kid, thinking this is a really good movie. This is great. And it's a completely different turn than what he normally made. And that was produced by Michael Douglas.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
So,
right.
and there was 100 directors on it before it landed in Carpenter's lap. But if Douglas is producing it, for all the problem, Douglas was my former boss's ex-partner, Regency Films. Uh, for all the craziness that Douglas can bring to a production, he does know filmmaking. He knows it his way, and you get some of that, but he knows it. And for him to decide to use Carpenter on Starman, which later became a TV show with Robert Hayes, I think, that shows you that Carpenter was actually respected within the Hollywood machinery to a degree. I know studio execs would say, like, they would openly say in the 80s, the movie didn't make money, the movie bombed. And that's always the finish line for some people. Like, did it make money or didn't it?
Right.
They, but Carpenter, I think, always delivered something that you were going to be like, dude, this, you never know. The movie starts here and it's going to end somewhere over here. You have no fucking idea where or how, but he's going to press go and then it's just like, hang on. And I love that about his movies. You just never knew what you were going to
They're all
get.
different too. All of them are
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, even the ones, I mean, he worked with Sam Neill a couple of times, and Sam Neill's incredible, incredible person. So there's a lot of, he also survived Chevy Chase. And,
Oh shit. Yeah, right. Yeah. Memoirs of
and
an Invisible Man. Yeah.
Bill Daley worked on that. Former Warner Brothers VP Bill Daley worked on that.
Survived Chevy
And,
Chase.
and it's come up. And Bill Daley said, as all, you get Bill with no filter. And he always said, Chevy Chase isn't difficult. He's just an asshole.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, I was
imagine him
watching
and
something
Carpenter.
like
Anyway,
there was something on YouTube where Carpenter was talking about that being like it was just a tough situation to find himself in dealing
yeah.
with Chevy Chase.
I mean, I think I know the clip you're talking about. When I've heard Carpenter talk about it, he's put it all in a very diplomatic perspective. But I think when
Right.
you're on the set, when you're on this, I mean, there's so many problems with a set day. Mainly the clock is ticking. And when anyone on any level tries to hold that up with some sort of definitive point they are compelled to make, as Chevy Chase has been known to do, uh, it's hard because if the star won't do it, if your actor won't do it, then you can get boxed in. And, the studio may call the star and say, what's your problem? But they're going to call the director first. Like we were laughing about that, how, like Robert Wise, we just did a show commemorating the work of Robert Wise, another guy I had the privilege of talking to at Warner Brothers about some interesting things and how the studio doesn't call you and say, hey, man, how does the sunset look in your shot today? They call you and go, why the fuck are you 2 days behind? I don't care if it looks beautiful. Why are you 2 days behind? That's their phone call. And Carpenter got that probably several times
So that's
with
like there's a cool clip of David Lynch on the set doing something, and somebody comes up to him and is like whispering to him, and he goes, "What the fuck is this?" He's like, "I don't care. Who cares how long the shot is? He's like, "This is crazy. Leave me alone."
yeah. It's hard. It's really challenging. I mean, you see both sides of it, and that's why I always tell, young people when they're making a film, pad your schedule. If you think you can get it in a day, try to fight for two. And if you think
Yeah,
you can
that's
get it in a
smart.
week, always pad the schedule so we can be, because if you deliver it under time, then you're a hero at the studio, even if you padded it to make that point. It's a little a little strategic move that can make you look good. But also it's always nice to know if we're not getting it, we have a little bit more time to try to get it or cobble this thing together in editorial. But Carpenter, of course, he's a guy I think knows, he boarded his movies. So I think but he won't, he wisely said, you don't stay married to your storyboards. It's kind of like a starting place and,
Right.
figure out the shot. I mean, so many people I know that worked with him loved him as a director. It's a long list. I mean, it's a long list of friends and colleagues. So that says something. But anyway, so okay, so Carpenter gets up there. Who makes the speech first? Does Childs go up first?
Oh, it was Greg Nicotero first, and he had these cue cards that said like it was like they live stuff, so it said like consume or something like that. I forget.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Obey. Yeah, the white
Brilliant.
cards with the black letters. I'm like, and then there was someone in the crowd with the they live alien mask on, so that was
Yeah.
cool. And then across the street there was a guy dressed up as Michael Myers. That was cool. So
We wondered at the time, are those modified Sleestack masks? In the 80s, we're like, did they just find like a warehouse full of Land of the Lost stuff and pretend?
yeah,
No, they didn't, but you can't see the resemblance. But it's funny because it's like, did he have like giant like signs from like the consume
just
or
just little cards. Like it was like he was reading his speech off of cue cards and held them up. At a certain point, it was like, oh, nice. So, yeah.
smart guy? Now I just saw him with Robert Rodriguez last week at the Canyon Club. They were shooting a video for Wolfgang Van Halen, and it's like a werewolf thing. So I was watching them work, and they were doing the scene where I mean, it's so funny because the werewolf was standing around for like 2 hours with a cigarette in his mouth, and they go,
That's good.
"All right, this is how these things work." They're like, "All right, we're ready," and then all of a sudden they do the pounce scene, and that's like 4 seconds of work, and then I cut, and everyone goes back to like all
Goes
the
back to
extras, and
waiting
yeah.
again. Yeah.
But Nicotero was up there, and the reason I even knew it was him was your picture. Actually, you had posted a picture of the three of them standing it together. So Nicotero, we suspected may have. We know how these things work. We think he may have had not without. We don't want to disrespect the situation here, but knowing how these things work, you and I feel that Nicotero may have had some behind the scenes maneuvering to get this done, as we all would have liked to have seen this done for Carpenter. I mean, without a
Right.
doubt. Now,
Maybe Slatch also. Maybe, because he's a big horror fan.
quite possibly. I mean,
Yeah.
quite possibly. I know who would know the answer to that, but we'll have to ask and get you an answer later here on the show. Let me run that up the Guns N' Roses chain of command and kind of see, hey, does anyone know?
I know
Look,
definitively what happened.
for those who need to know how the mechanics of this took place, I mean, we can't just sit back and enjoy it. We can, but we don't. We can't just sit back and enjoy the fact that Carpenter got a star. We have to figure out how it all came together. Right?
Like, what's the inside story here? What's going on? Yeah.
He deserved a star 20 years ago. So this thing's ridiculous to me. It's like it's
Yeah,
great to
people
see it
say that a
now.
lot. Yeah, it's got I don't know, some kind of weird process how that all works, right? People have to pay for it and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And and that's part of the problem. It's not as honorary as many of us would love to believe. It's not one of those things where somebody decides this guy should have one. Somebody says this guy should have one, and then there's a bunch of mechanics that have to fall into place to make it a reality. But granted, it ain't cheap putting a star into a sidewalk in a tourist town.
That was his line at the end though that was super funny. It was like, Now I have a star on the sacred boulevard where people and animals can pee on me," or something like that.
Well, not the animals so much, but yeah, he's right about the rest of it. I
Definitely
mean,
the people.
I
Yeah.
mean, as
And then
a
he said,
as an
"Let's do lunch," and did this, and that was it. He was out. That was done. But the cool thing
yeah,
was, my pictures for that. I mean, there were a bunch of actual media outlets like Variety was or whatever. His account shared my pictures for
yeah,
like I think it was like a couple days. They were up in his stories, and that
yeah,
shit
good.
just took off, and it blew my reach up. It was crazy. I was like, "Oh man, thank you, John
Well,
Carpenter."
yeah, yeah, and it's well deserved. I mean, you did it the right way, man. You got to the location, you did a run through, you were ready to go, even with new equipment. What I like about your story too is classic weapons on point moment. I'm not sure I can do the focus fast enough the right way. So scrap this and grab this mag. We're going with this just to make sure we get the shot, which is the smart play. You don't want to, I mean, if you can't test these things out and make sure you're completely comfortable with them beforehand. Look, these are examples to young filmmakers out there too, who we've dealt with plenty of times. If practice before the day of,
Right.
be
Or if you're,
ready.
yeah, like, I mean, the phone is an amazing camera. It's
It
an
is.
amazing video camera, and it's compact. You're not like, it's not big and clunky where you're in a bunch of people's way. You can
Right.
hold it up so you're not blocking anyone's view. It's just a really versatile tool for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got all that with my phone.
Dude, hyper impressive, and what a legendary event to be part of. And I'm so glad some of the old vets came out to pay respect. I mean, that tells you how much the dude is loved, right? For this to finally happen, 20, I would almost say 30 years too late, but for it to finally happen and to see so many of the people who worked with him come out and pay their respects. I mean, I think Kurt Russell had a career prior to
Hey, he's a Disney
Escape
kid.
from New York. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I will definitely agree that Carpenter literally shot him out of a cannon. I think for us as kids with Escape from New York and the thing, it was like, dude, why is this guy not starring in every movie?
Yeah. Snake Plissken, I mean, shit, come
Yeah,
on, man. Just
yeah, yeah.
Escape from New York's awesome. I like Escape from LA also, even though it's a very different tone with that one. But
Well, I have my theories about Escape from LA, and I've shared them with some of the production team. I mean, literally everyone on that we've filmed, and it's a hodgepodge of talent. Had a lot of conversations about Escape from LA. And what I think happened there is I think the financiers wanted Carpenter to do another movie. Or Carpenter wanted to do another movie, and the financiers were like, fine, but we need to guarantee our investment with a sequel to Escape from New York.
Tie it to an existing IP.
And
Yeah.
I think that Carpenter's probably like, I don't want to do this. So the only way to get them to agree to my movie and piss them off is if I pitch every stupid idea I can and finally get them to shake their head and be like, just do your movie. And so he goes in there and he's like, and he's surfing down Sunset.
I was just gonna say that shit.
And
That's
then
so
there's
funny.
a basketball game between him and the
And Peter
bad
Fonda
guy's
is
name
there
is,
too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Cuervo Jones. And then we put in Pam Grier, but Pam Grier's a man. Or how does it work? And then we put in
Yeah.
Bill Campbell. And
Carjack
then,
Malone. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so he keeps, I think he threw it all out there.
Hershey Carjack Malone. Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Fucking
And the
great. Ali
studio
Wong's in that
probably,
one too.
yeah.
He's part of her gang.
Oh, everyone's in it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amada was the coordinator on it, I think, and makes an appearance. Lou is
Right.
definitely in it.
Yeah, and
Robert
which
Carradine, who we just
yeah,
talked to, even
thank you.
shows up in it. And of course,
Yeah,
Peter Jason plays the fascist commando.
right.
But
Gives him the lecture.
I mean, here's like, I'm sure Carpenter pitches all these things and they go, all right. He's thinking like, they're going to think this is ridiculous and they're just going to tell me to make the movie I want to make. But instead, the studio's like, this is all great, John. Get started.
It's a great
Let's,
idea.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. You know, they did all that surfing stuff down in a wave tank in Texas. Harrison Ellenshaw
Oh,
was the point person on it, and he said Deborah Hill came down to Texas. She didn't have to. She came down with a newspaper, sat down on the side of the set, and started reading the newspaper, and said, "Look, I'm here if you need anything. I just didn't want to make. I want to make sure you guys know you have my support." So she literally made the flight just to watch them do their thing, and they had these pro surfers, of course, come in. Anyway,
that's
interesting sort
cool.
of. Yeah, it
She's
was.
a legend for sure, you know? So that's cool that she came
Yeah,
out.
yeah, for sure. A legend, and her certainly deserves her own star on the Walk of Fame.
Agreed. Absolutely.
All right.
They come out of darkness, sometimes with thunder, sometimes with lightning. Their presence means death. The prison master was afraid of him. The guards were afraid of him. The town was afraid of him. Lucifer is coming for you. Rest easy, Jack Carr said in a low tone. You're in the final 30 seconds of your life. No quarter. No quarter. Kill all masters. Coming soon.
All right, we're back. We had a moment there to kind of handle some business off air. So what we're talking about is John Carpenter's Star Ceremony, which was an epic event covered by our friend here, the Haunt Keeper, who we all know and love. He was front row center, watched Keith David pay tribute, Kurt Russell, which alone to me is like worth tackling people to kind of witness
Yeah.
and so many others that we know and love Al Leong in the mix on this, and in a ceremony that's nice to see now, but we both agree is about 20 years or more too late.
For sure. And
So highlight of the entire experience, my friend, was what?
geez, a lot of people I kind of connected with online afterward. Like I saw Dean Kundi. I said, appreciate you,
Brilliant.
Dean. He looked at me like, who the fuck are you? He followed me afterward though. That was cool. Like on
Good,
Instagram.
good.
Uh yeah, I think just lucking out and being up there, seeing Kurt Russell in person was just like mind blowing. It was super cool, you know.
Yeah. Was Joe Alves
Um,
there?
who is what?
Was Joe Alves there?
I don't think so. I don't know.
So Alves has done a lot of radio work with us here, and also helped us a lot with our charity work. But he was the production designer on Jaws, but later did Escape from New York, and
Oh, yes. Okay, now I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
some second unit on Starman. So I would be surprised. I would actually be surprised if he wasn't there, though he's a low key, polite individual. He doesn't tell everyone I'm Joe Alves, and he
Yeah.
shows up. But I
Yeah,
was just kind
swipe
of
if
curious.
you have a chance, go through that role and look at the because I got a lot of pictures of everybody getting down to sit and
Yeah.
a lot of different faces you'll recognize. So if he was there, I probably got him in my pictures. I just don't know his face, but I know
I'm
the
st-
name when you, especially in relation to Jaws. Immediately, I was like, oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So from start to finish, I did not, oh, by the way, ask my friends who run Musso and Frank if that's where the after party was. But judging from the photos, it felt like that's maybe, they maybe went a block or two up and that's where they all conveyed, which was probably that's probably what everyone would want to be at is the post event decompress. But from start to finish, you're into this. How long was the whole going out, staking out your spot, witnessing this, wrapping it up?
I'd say maybe, I think the ceremony itself is like 45 minutes. I mean, it goes quick.
Wow.
They show up, cops set everything up. They do it and
I,
then they're out of there. I think I'd say like an hour and a half. I mean,
yeah.
honestly, I think it was like, was it 2 weeks ago or something? But I've done so much, I'm always doing stuff. So it's just like a blur, it happened. I kind of vaguely remember.
I think, I think it's a cool thing to witness. There are a few stars out
absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few stars in that walk that are really, really well deserved. And I think it's cool that he finally got his. And, to everyone who participated or helped get it done or lobbied or did their thing or actually rented the videos as kids to help propel them to this point, you're a part of this. This is also your success. Your director, the director you're a fan of, he owes a debt to the people who've supported the movies. And this is a good opportunity for everyone to kind of come together in one historic moment to say, good. This feels like one of our guys finally got it, doesn't it? This doesn't
Yeah, it
feel
does
like
for sure.
a Katy Perry in space or some rich thing
Oh,
that was
God.
just done. Not that that's all bad either. I mean, whatever. You want to go to space and you got the money to do it, go to space, just pay your taxes. But
Right.
for me, it's like Carpenter feels like one of us. Like he feels like, doesn't it? It feels like,
Yeah, I think that all the abuse he's tolerated over the years and
yeah,
disrespect, I think that's what it is. He's sort of like he shouldn't be, but he is kind of an underdog in a way because of how poorly he was treated,
right.
especially making The Thing, how bad he was treated by critics when that movie came out. So,
Well, like I said, I've been looking at Siskel and Ebert reviewing these old movies, and it was interesting to see that one of them liked Escape from New York and one didn't. One liked Escape from LA and thought the whole thing was just a fucking parody,
right.
and one didn't. And so he actually, in some ways, was liked more than I remember by critics because those guys were kind of the definitive people when we were kids. They were on TV.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I mean I caught the end of their whole thing, but I totally remember. And then when it
Yeah.
switched over to Ebert and Roper, I'm like, who's this other guy?
Who is this
Had to
dude?
put somebody in there, but
I
not the
mean,
gravitas of Gene Siskel.
I don't know
So
what Carpenter felt about those guys because obviously Siskel is a character at the end of They Live. When he's like,
oh
so much
yeah, yeah.
violence. So
Yeah,
that's
they
kind of
both
like,
kind of are. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They
which is
each their
classic,
thoughts on him.
classic.
It's cool.
And I actually think one of those guys is Jeff Amata. Actually, they all might be Jeff Amata at the end of They Live. I don't know. Somebody on the internet will correct me
That
undoubtedly. I
ending's
feel
just
empowered to
hilarious.
correct me. But yeah. But anyway, it's kind of good to see. Like looking back, I realized that I don't know what Gene Shalit or these other high octane critics who, I mean, sometimes we had a conversation that sometimes it's cooler just to criticize and it's easier to be a critic and be critical than to sort of describe the element you like about a thing. That's what we were saying also a moment ago about Big Trouble in Little China. Why do we love it? Well,
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time explaining other than the fact the fucking thing is just fun. It's ridiculous from start to finish, but
Yeah,
it is so
Egg
fun.
Shen, David Lopan, it's
Yeah.
all the characters, like Kim Cattrall's in that movie.
And
Yeah.
I remember for a charity standpoint, my first meeting with the Tongs in Chinatown was like a late night thing where they closed a restaurant to meet. And you had to walk through their office is adjoined, one of them, to the classic tourist plaza. So it's all lit up, but it's totally empty. And a guy walks you to the restaurant for the meeting, and you go into the meeting, and they're like the only guys at the table in the place, other than the waiters that are in a line waiting to hear what you want. And I remember going in there and feeling like it was Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah,
And
the
one of the
neon and all
guys,
that.
yeah, but one of the guys actually like parodied it, like made a joke of it, probably seeing, you know, this guy's only
Yeah, his only
reference to
frame
our
of reference
culture
has been
is probably Big
Big
Trouble in Little
Trouble.
China and or Bruce Lee. Like they totally were comically dismissive at first as an icebreaker. It's very
Uh,
different than when you meet the Yakuza downtown, they have a completely different protocol than the Tongs. The Tongs really like privacy, and so does the Yakuza. But when you go to meet the Yakuza, the moment you're in their neighborhood, they take responsibility for you. And if they call the meeting, they'll speak English. If you call the meeting, even though they can speak English, they'll speak Japanese through a translator to you. And I'm not sure where that comes from or why, but anyway, so
It's
the
just
Tongs,
deference, kind of. I think this whoever you're kind of like, yeah,
yeah. So the Tongs whole thing is like a big trouble. This guy only knows us from big. He's like, what are we gonna do? We're not gonna have any like magic, fight. Peter Kwan, by the way, said he did that entire movie, and on like the last day of production, he and Dennis Dunn are doing that flying fight scene for a couple days, I think, or whatever. And they land, and Dunn does that thing with his eyebrows where he's like,
yeah.
and Peter said, he's like, I was horrified because that's when I realized this whole time we had been making a comedy. He's like, I would have played the entire movie differently. I thought we were making a straightforward action movie. And when Dennis did that, I was like, oh my God, I've acted this entire movie wrong. And he thought his career was over from it. Little
It
did he
works
know.
though. He shouldn't. Yeah, he shouldn't have been. I mean, like, I think that's what makes it funny and makes it work. It's like not everybody can be funny in a comedy.
Yeah,
You need
yeah.
people to play the straight person, or you need to be serious or whatever. And yeah, the storms are such a cool part of that movie, and they actually inspired like Raiden in Mortal Kombat. Like all those
Oh, yeah.
characters, came from the storms in Big Trouble. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Right, right. And those are three good actors too. I mean, even Carter Wong, who people like to make fun of. But I can help you. Even
His head blows up at the end. It's so
he
good.
is absolutely great. I mean, James Hong would come to Warner Brothers to talk to us, and I remember he had a warehouse full of props from his movies. And he was like, what should I do with all this stuff? And I was like, dude, you should auction it off. Donate it to charity or be the charity because you're now, I mean, at that time he was in his 80s.
Mm.
I'm like, but even
And he's
he
still
was
around too. He's way up there now.
dude, that guy he's worked with everyone from Polanski and Chinatown to Outer Limits.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
the guy is
Blade
such a
Runner also.
journeyman.
He's in
Yeah.
Ridley Scott and Blade Runner.
That's what he gave me. He gave me a still from Blade Runner, actually, which I thought was kind of unique because he is good in the movie. He's good in everything he does, but he's good in the movie. But I was surprised that was the still. Like I thought it would have been like a low pan or one of those more. I am definitely what this scene is about.
I'm good at this, but you may have forgotten I was even in the movie. Here you go, buddy.
Yeah. Like a little reminder. But so many of these guys also deserve their own. Well, hopefully they are getting the respect they deserve, but they deserve their own celebratory moment. But I'm glad Carpenter got his. I'm glad you were able to witness it.
Yeah.
And damn, whoever behind the scenes, I mean, it starts with Carpenter and his work, but whoever behind the scenes finally jogged this to reality. Thank you. Thank you from us for doing it. It was a good experience. Evan loves it. So, highlight of the entire day. All right, give me highlight number 1, 2, and 3. You're on the scene. Give me the top 3 moments of witnessing history.
I think getting into the barricades where we like, first we were kind of like midway. It just all comes down to like decisions you make second to second, basically. And
Right.
people are like, no, this is the best spot. I'm like, no, this is bullshit. We're looking through like the crowd, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep going all the way to the end, and we did. And this is a really nice guy that we met there, and he let my daughter move all the way up. So my daughter was like
Good.
all the way up front, and she had her own Meta Ray-Bans to capture it in a little
Right.
little camera.
So the guys at Facebook headquarters could see it all for themselves.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, being in the perfect spot, just seeing everything. What was cool? I didn't mention this before, and I can't remember her name. I think her first name is Mary though, but she was Carpenter's set photographer for
Godly.
Like
It's Godly, right? Her last name's Godly?
Maybe. I don't know.
Kim. I think it's Kim Godly.
Yeah, that's it. You got it. That's the name.
Yeah.
Sarah Mary, what the hell? Anyway, I saw her kind of like moving around taking pictures, and then at the very end she got like right up in front of us and was like there getting, so it was cool. Like I'm like, I am in the perfect spot because she took behind the scene stills for I think like all the way up to The Fog or something, or maybe I'm not sure. It's his first maybe 4 movies or something. So
yeah, and she probably still is very good, but she got some great images from those
Yeah,
And the fact that she kicked your kid out of the way to get her shot tells you a lot about her. Fantastic.
that's right. I'll let
She's
you say
cool.
that, and I won't.
No, 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 no. I mean, if that's what's happened, she should be ashamed of herself. I mean, when I've talked to her,
No,
she's
she
been
was
very,
she was in between us, so she just was like down below me and behind my kid. So she just
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
found a perfect spot, just kind of tuck in real quick.
That also happens at these things. Again, everyone wants their shot, and they sometimes don't care how they go about getting it, which is another thing from a Western perspective that has made these things kind of barbaric and irritating to a degree. But I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad you were there, and I'm glad this happened. And I'm sorry Kurt Russell, you know, had his experience.
Yeah, that was
Well,
that was probably the coolest thing was being let back in, and just like that
yeah,
big it's kind of a lounge, inside the Roosevelt.
right.
It
Yeah, I
was
know it.
closed off the night before because they were doing like a after party for it's the Handmaid's Tale, right? Is that what it's called?
Probably. And some of them were
Something.
probably in the building. I'm sure some
Yeah,
of them
yeah.
probably just stayed the night.
I think Kurt Russell got out earlier, but yeah, we walked by Slash, and I almost stopped and talked about. I'm like, no, 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 you're in here. Don't talk to any of these people, whatever. But yeah, being amongst all the Carpenter stars was cool, and waiting to get my $70 valet car, that was probably the biggest highlight. Yeah, so
Well, honestly, that's a ridiculous ticket charge for a guest and valet. $70 is fucking completely uncalled for when you're staying there, but whatever.
got me up
It's a,
there. I mean, if it got me my spot, happy to pay it. Even though,
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm
like
like,
I said, I've had my rebellious confrontations with the Roosevelt over, and that probably it's a good thing that didn't come up on top of the situation we were in because that would have been like a fucking
right up to
stone
the
through the
top.
window too much.
Yeah,
Yeah. But these things are, you played it right. I do know this about you. You have some sensibility when it comes to this thing, and you're not one of these obnoxious guys. And we know who we're talking about, not in terms directly, but
right.
nature of, where you're just like, oh, fucking this, like you're the guy that's ruining it for all of us that just want the experience.
Like turning again. Hey, this is Dennis Dunn over here, and I'm blah, blah, some
Yeah,
shit
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Like
Hey,
talking,
John Carpenter,
what's up,
he's
people
over
like
here. Look
that,
at me.
that infused enthusiasm on top of the own, like
Yeah.
their own excitement that just makes the whole thing a blizzard of
No,
fucking
it's
obnoxiousness.
it's about the event. It's about the people who are involved with the event, and I'm
Yeah.
just capturing it. So that's it. I'm incidentally there, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy I went. I was in my head. I'm like, this is a first and last. Like, I have no interest. I can't think of anybody else I would go that hard for. Like paying the $70, staying in the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Roosevelt, all that to be there at that moment. But it was totally worth it. It was an amazing experience. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. It's so amazing, friends, that it's so amazing that we will have to talk about Ted Kotcheff next time around,
That's right.
who we did lose. And it should not be forgotten that Ted Kotcheff was a contributor around here, not just a great director, didn't make just these Hallmark films, but Ted Kotcheff was always willing to help us, charitable wise. He always took the phone call. In fact, somewhere I've got an autographed book that I'm always meant to auction off. For some reason, never put it up for auction for a charitable cause, and he signed it. And it's now one of those things I think I will buy, just to keep, just because, these things it's starting to become a casualty list around here, and it's starting to come fast and furious at us. We're losing a lot of great people who made a lot of great contributions. I am glad Carpenter got his recognition before he too was lost. My primary regret with all this awesomeness and the stories you're telling is that Peter Jason didn't get a chance to see it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely love John. Vice versa. We know John put him on like a Schedule C or something and kept him employed on the film through the entire production, whether he was in the scene or not, which tells you a lot about their friendship. And also tells you a lot about Carpenter's class. He doesn't need to show it. He doesn't need to amplify it, but he has it. He is, whether it's My Daughter's Charity or how he treated Peter, he definitely was a classy individual. Props to him and props to you, my friend, for having the experience. Evan Uncanny, known as the Haunt Keeper, a must follow on Instagram for Dean Kundi and the rest of us.
That's right.
God bless you for being part of the action, buddy. Proud of you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I know you'd enjoy. I knew you would enjoy that analogy because I remember. Going, what the fuck are they doing?
Okay. So post interview, we just talked to Evan about his experience watching John Carpenter get his star, and of course, we're having a production conversation about a 4-part and or 8-part docuseries on the production of A Christmas Carol. And the reference he cited was the Paul Schrader version of The Exorcist, which I was at Warner Brothers for, so I immediately got nauseous.
Yeah, they did the same Exorcist movie twice. Yeah, so Rennie Harlan, Paul Schrader did one, and they're like, "This is no good," and then they did a Rennie Harlan version, and then they put the Paul Schrader version out after the Rennie Harlan version, I think, like underperformed or something.
We didn't do it. Morgan Creek, who had the offices across the golf cart path from us, they did it. And
that's
I remember
Anaconda, right? Didn't they do Anaconda also?
Oh, I don't know. That was before I started there. But
okay.
I remember.
I love Anaconda.
I remember when this was happening, these Exorcist prequels, and Rennie Harlan was brought in. And I remember thinking, like, the solution is Rennie Harlan here? Like, that's going to save us?
Yeah, and you're doing it twice? What?
Like, and one...
Paul Schrader, though, like, Taxi Driver and fucking Hardcore, and come on. Like, you know.
At the time, the studio said they were going to scrap his version completely or maybe release it on video. And I'm like, what are we spending money on here? And of course, when you don't go with the plan and you voice a different point of view, I always do that so everyone around the room can have their angle out, so the person who makes the decision can make it in full appreciation of what everyone's thinking.
Kind of cracks it open and everybody's less nervous to share their viewpoint. Yeah.
But a lot of times I stand up, like I was the guy that said we should put out Collateral Damage, another masterpiece I worked on with Schwarzenegger. Though I have the privilege of working on all the films the stars would like to forget they made. Like I worked on The Replacements with Keanu Reeves and Hackman. So with Collateral Damage, I was like, we got to put this out post 9/11 because people want payback, even if it's on the big screen. And they're like, how dare you be insensitive? And I'm like, I don't think it's insensitive. I think we need to start fucking punching these guys in the mouth on every level, including cinema. And but of course everyone's like, oh, he said it. I'm like, you should hear what I'm thinking. You should hear what I'm thinking. But with Exorcist, same kind of dialogue. Like, we're going to do this again, and we're bringing in Rennie Harlan. And I remember a famous contributor to Combat Radio, former Warner Brothers senior VP Bill Daly would say quite openly, hey man, if the movie's a D, is spending another $10 million on it going to make it an A? Because if it's not, we're just going to release the D. If it's going to make it a C, why the fuck are we spending the money? And there's a point there. Like, at some point, if the rewrites and the reinvestment is going to really reinvigorate the film, and it's happened for some movies that were completely fucking rattled to hell, and they've been salvaged by reshoots at times. Rogue One, although I'd love to see the original cut, is kind of the famous example where reshoots, everyone thought this is going to be disastrous, and the movie I thought was pretty decent.
Yeah, well, that Darth Vader scene makes the whole movie. If that's not in it, it's like...
Yeah, well, I'd love to see the version we all saw matched up against what was initially intended, but neither here nor there. You get the story. Like, is the investment really going to be worth the investment?
Hi there, everybody. Voice actor Roger Craig Smith here to talk to you about NMOSD. It can paralyze you, it can blind you, it can even kill you in a matter of minutes, but we are very close to a cure. And with that cure could come a cure for cancer. So please go to the Guthrie Jackson Foundation and donate today. Appreciate it.